This is the second part of my look at the Lucy poems by Wordsworth. Um, the one I'm leaving out is She Dwelt 3 years in sun and shower. Um, so, yeah, 3 years she grew, in sun and shower. The other poems are simple lyrics. This one is actually a bit complicated in its form, and I don't think it's as good, really. Um, we're really interested in the power and the quality of the poem, and it doesn't really tell us anything extra about Lucy, and it's different to all the others because it's not just a simple lyric. So that's really the reason I'm leaving it out, and personally it doesn't have the same kind of emotional power for me that the other poems have. Um, yeah, so let's look at Wordsworth's meditation on Lucy's death. It's kind of her death recollected while in tranquility, not really in tranquility, but he has realized the truth now that Lucy is dead and will not return, and he meditates on the fact. A short little lyric. A slumber did my spirit seal. A slumber did my spirit seal. I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly years. No motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees. Rolled round in earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. Well, it's simple, and yet it's very effective. It's short, and yet it says what it has to say. So, a slumber did my spirit seal, I had no human fears. So he lived in the writer, the poet, whoever is the character is here. Is it Wordsworth himself? He lived in the belief that everything would be great and perfect forever. And it's good to sleep in that, to have that sleep, even though it is only a sleep, only a dream. It's not what reality actually is. But it's good to exist in that state for as long as you can. And then you wake up to horrible reality. Slumber did my spirit seal. I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly years. He loved her, she was young, he was young. Why should they think about death? Although at this time death was a constant for everybody, and being young was not really any guaranteed protection, with so many diseases around that could take a life in a moment. But she seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly years. These are simple lyrics, same as before. It's a simple stanza with 8 syllables followed by 6 syllables lines, and it's iambic, the easy kind of most natural meter in the English language. A slumber did my spirit seal. I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly years. Meditative. And then the second stanza. Complete contrast. No motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees. Rolled round in earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. So Lucy has become a part of nature. Mostly these poems have suitably simple vocabulary, and we know that Wordsworth in the lyrical ballads thought that poetry should speak mostly in simple words to to people, and that this really communicated more power, more emotion than using arcane vocabulary. There is just one difficult word here used to great effect, I think, just right at the end of the poem, in the last two lines: rolled round an earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. So diurnal, daily course, the daily course of the earth, and daily motion of the earth. She has no motion, she has no force. She neither hears nor sees, but she's become a part of nature, a part of the daily movement of the planet, rolled round an earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. So Lucy has gone back to nature, and she was a force of nature when she lived, and now she's returned to nature. No motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees, rolled round an earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. So it's hopeless, but there is also that sense of she has returned to nature. She came from nature. She has returned to nature, and somehow or other she maybe she not as herself, but she continues to exist in nature. It's very hopeless, really. It's the first stanza says he was happy when he didn't know how horrible life could be, and when he thought that the love he had with Lucy would live forever. And now he's woken up, and he sees that life can be, or is, horrible, and Lucy is dead, and there is no hope. She will not return. She neither hears nor sees, and she is rolled round in the daily motion. She's rolled round with rocks, stones, and trees in the daily motion of the earth. Doesn't offer any hope at all, really. It's just a meditation on his loss, and it's profoundly effective, I think, and it's impossible to read it without a strong emotional response. Again, tells us nothing about Lucy, tells us nothing about himself, only that she's dead and will not return, and we see what that means to him and how he will never be the same again because of it. Final poem I'm looking at then is, I think, one of the best of the four. I travelled among unknown men, and then we know that around about this time, when he was writing just before appearance of lyrical ballads, or around about the time of the lyrical ballads, he lived abroad for time, Germany, and he lived in France and had a child with a French woman there. And some people think that perhaps Lucy is some kind of composite of several women he might have known during his travels abroad, and some think that she was perhaps mostly based on his own sister. I don't know. I'll talk about that perhaps a little bit more after we look at this poem. So, I travelled among unknown men. I travelled among unknown men in lands beyond the sea. Nor England did I know till then what love I bore to thee. 'Tis past that melancholy dream, nor will I quit thy shore a second time, for still I seem to love thee more and more. Among thy mountains did I feel the joy of my desire, and she I cherished turned her wheel beside an English fire. Thy mornings showed, thy nights concealed, the bowers where Lucy played, and thine too is the last green field that Lucy's eyes surveyed. Very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. So he's abroad, he's gone abroad. We can assume, infer, that he's left his home country, England, after the death of Lucy. He's got to get away, he's got to try and forget or come to terms with Lucy's death. I travelled among unknown men in lands beyond the sea. Nor England did I know till then what love I bore to thee. Well, people talk about Wordsworth as a nature poet, so he's thinking about how much he loves England, but he's gone away for a reason, and we will find out what that reason is later on. 'Tis past that melancholy dream, nor will I quit thy shore a second time, for still I seem to love thee more and more. So it's over, he's back in England now. It's past that melancholy dream, and I will not leave again, nor will I quit thy shore a second time, for still I seem to love thee more and more. So suddenly England starts to seem like a lover, and that kind of idea is continued in the rest of the poem. Among thy mountains did I feel the joy of my desire, and she I cherished turned her wheel beside an English fire. So Lucy has kind of become, the idea of Lucy has kind of been conflated with the idea of England. Lucy is the representation of what England means to him. The beautiful mountains, the beautiful nature, and she is dead and rolled around, or she's rolled around by trees and rocks, and she's in the English earth, and somehow Lucy and England have become one in the poet's mind. She I cherished turned her wheel beside an English fire. Thy mornings showed, thy nights concealed, the bowers where Lucy played, and thine too is the last green field that Lucy's eyes surveyed. That last word is great, surveyed. It's not just seen, it's surveyed, the idea of looking on something, possibly for the last time, to survey something, to take everything in, not just look, to see and be aware of everything, to survey something that you might do with your last look before dying. So England is dear to him too, because its field was it was England's green field that Lucy saw, or her eyes surveyed before she died. She took everything in. This is England, this is a beautiful place where I was born and where I am dying now. And her eyes surveyed the whole scene. And this is too why England is dear to him now, because it's a place that Lucy came from and the place where she died. And it seems like for the poets, Lucy and England have become one. So, as I said before, Wordsworth did spend time in France and Germany as a young man, even had a child with a French woman. So possibly Lucy is some kind of composite of several women, although there is no evidence of anything quite so sad in Wordsworth's own background as Lucy. No evidence of a loss so great. Some people say Lucy is really based on his sister, but his sister was fine. Really, it's difficult to get that emotion from a situation when his sister, if Lucy was his sister when his sister is still alive and fine. So possibly the sense of loss Wordsworth could have suffered when he left behind the woman he loved in France, or his child. Maybe this sense of loss was expressed in the Lucy poems. I feel in this kind of in the very simple language that is used, and yet the profound kind of philosophy behind it, where it's dealing in a very deep way with loss, and technically brilliant by not telling us more than we need to know at any point, and even after reading all the poems we still don't know who Lucy is, and we don't know who Lucy's lover is, and we don't know about their story, and we don't know anything about them really, except that Lucy was beautiful. She lived alone, and not many people were able to appreciate her beauty, and then she died, and it made a very big difference to the writer, and he travelled abroad, and while he was abroad all he could do was think of England, mostly because it was a place where Lucy lived and died, and Lucy and England become one in the poet's mind as a symbol of something special, a place to stay forever. If he can't have Lucy, at least he can have the beauty of English nature, where Lucy will lie forever. Yeah, so perhaps there's something Germanic in the philosophy behind these poems as well, something kind of Hegelian perhaps, but we know that Wordsworth, like Coleridge, did study German philosophy, and in this contrast between the simplicity of the language and the depth of the thought, there is something rather similar to some of the metaphysical German philosophy of the time. I can only state my own opinion. I don't think that there was one Lucy. I don't think Wordsworth had an affair with a woman that we don't know anything about, and wrote the Lucy poems about this secret tryst, or this secret relationship. I think she was, as I said before, a composite of several women that he knew and had known, and he was familiar with loss and with travel and with the need to leave people and things he loved, and he summed all this up in the Lucy poems, as well as his love of England and his delight, his sense of gladness of coming back to England again after having been abroad for so long. So I hope that this brief look at the Lucy poems has been useful for you.